Have you ever admired a golden crown, only to realize that beneath all the sparkle was a body crawling with lice, rotting teeth, and a perfume cloud strong enough to suffocate a horse? Welcome to the reality of royal life. Behind velvet curtains and oil-painted smiles, kings and queens carried habits so foul they'd make a medieval dungeon seem refreshing. Today, we peel back the silk and jewels to uncover 7 of the worst royal habits in history. 1. Bathing was basically a death sentence. In an age when plague and superstition ruled, water was treated like poison. Doctors swore that warm baths opened the pores and invited disease. The church reinforced the paranoia, warning that bathing was vanity, and vanity led to sin. So, what did that mean for kings and queens? It meant they avoided water like it was acid. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months without a proper bath. Instead, cleaning meant dabbing the face, neck, and hands with cloths dipped in vinegar, wine, or even spit. The goal was to remove visible dirt, never mind the stench. When nobles did bathe, usually during illness or a rare ceremony, it was a communal tub reused by the entire household. The men went first, leaving the water a lukewarm broth of sweat and grime. By the time women entered, it was basically a soup of noble filth. Imagine stepping into that stew in a gown of silk, calling it hygiene. Perfumes and scented oils became the substitute for water. Corridors reeked of musk, lavender, and underlayers of sweat baked into fabrics. Visitors often described palaces as equal parts fragrant and rancid. And to the nobles, that was completely normal. 2. Toilets were a luxury no one had. Palaces dazzled with marble halls, crystal chandeliers, and endless gardens. But plumbing? Forget it. Toilets were mythical. Instead, royals and nobles relied on chamber pots tucked behind curtains, under chairs, or beside their beds. When nature called, they squatted or perched while maids held up layers of skirts. Privacy didn't exist. Dignity, even less. And where did the contents of those pots go? Out the window. Onto courtyards. Into gardens. Sometimes onto unlucky servants walking below. Some courtiers skipped the pot altogether, relieving themselves behind staircases, statues, or hedges. Versailles in particular earned a reputation as one of the most beautiful yet foul-smelling places in Europe. Even queens weren't spared. They used lavishly carved close stools, ornate chairs hiding a chamber pot, but someone still had to empty it, and the smell lingered no matter how much perfume was sprayed. Toilet paper didn't exist. Royals wiped with fabric scraps, straw, or leaves, reused far more than anyone would want to imagine. The result? Chronic rashes, infections, and a stench that clung to every hallway. 3. Teeth fit for nightmares. If there's one thing royal diets guaranteed, it was cavities. Sugar, once an expensive luxury, was consumed in mountains by kings and queens. Sweet meats, candied fruits, spiced wines, it all rotted their teeth faster than servants could fan them. Dentistry barely existed. Instead of brushing with bristles and paste, nobles experimented with bizarre concoctions: ground coral, ash, crushed shells, even powders of precious stones. Many mixed these with honey, believing it was cleansing. Spoiler, it wasn't. The sugar only worsened the decay. By middle age, many royals had blackened stumps instead of teeth. Bad breath could knock out a courtier at 10 paces. Queen Elizabeth I, for instance, was notorious for her sweet tooth, and her mouth suffered for it. Imagine a throne room filled with jewels, gowns, and the constant waft of decayed molars. Royal kisses weren't romantic, they were chemical warfare. 4. Makeup that killed slowly. In portraits, queens glowed with flawless, porcelain skin. But what those paintings didn't show was the slow poisoning happening beneath. Nobles used Venetian ceruse, a foundation made from white lead and vinegar. It created a perfect pale look while eating away at their flesh. The skin blistered. Scars deepened. Wrinkles worsened. So, what did they do? Apply more makeup to cover the damage, beginning a vicious cycle of beauty and decay. Over time, the leads seeped into the bloodstream, causing headaches, hair loss, trembling hands, and even death. Some added arsenic powders for extra brilliance. Fashion didn't just cost money, it cost health, sanity, and lives. These weren't beauty regimens. They were slow suicides disguised as elegance. Every powdered face you admire in a museum was essentially painted with poison. 5. Feasts that festered. Royal banquets looked divine: roasted swans with feathers intact, towers of candied fruits, golden goblets overflowing with wine. But step behind the kitchen doors, and you'd gag. Refrigeration didn't exist. Meat sat out for hours, sometimes days, before serving. To mask the stench of rot, cooks drowned dishes in heavy spices, sugar, or wine. Fruits swarmed with flies. Rats scurried freely. Waste from broken plumbing sometimes leaked into food storage areas. Guests often paid the price. Diarrhea and vomiting weren't seen as illness, but as routine side effects of dining with royalty. And parasites were regular companions. Tapeworms, sometimes several feet long, nested in intestines. Even Louis XIV was rumored to have expelled a massive one, a grotesque metaphor for the bloated excess of his reign. For noblewomen, dining meant sitting still in tight corsets, nibbling politely, and smiling while cramps twisted their stomachs. Food was a spectacle, but survival after the feast was never guaranteed. 6. Wigs crawling with life. Nothing screamed royalty like a towering powdered wig. These constructions, made from horsehair or human hair, were glued and pinned to the scalp, then smeared with animal fat pomades to hold shape. They weren't removed for days or weeks. Beneath the curls lurked colonies of lice and fleas, happily breeding in the warmth. Women carried silver lice picks to dinner, discreetly scratching at their infected scalps while sipping wine. Powder masked the smell, but it couldn't hide the sores, scabs, or infections festering underneath. Poor women sometimes shaved their heads entirely to avoid the plague of lice. Noble women, however, endured the agony for the sake of image. Removing the wig in public was unthinkable. Baldness or thinning hair meant social death. Better to endure itching, bleeding, and the occasional rat crawling across your powdered curls than to be seen as unfashionable. 7. Childbirth as public theatre. The most private moment in a woman's life, giving birth, was turned into a performance in royal courts. Queens labored in rooms crammed with courtiers, clergy, and curious onlookers. The reasoning? To prevent any switch of infants or scandal over heirs. Imagine it: sweat pouring, screams echoing, the agony of contractions, while dozens of eyes watched like it was a stage play. Marie Therese of France birthed before such a crowd that her chamber resembled a marketplace more than a nursery. Marie Antoinette fainted during labor from the suffocating crush of onlookers. Medical care was primitive. No anesthesia, no sterilization, no understanding of infection. Instruments were reused without cleaning. Doctors went from one patient to another without washing hands. Childbirth often ended in infections, hemorrhages, or death. 1 in 3 children didn't survive to age 3, and mothers faced risks with every pregnancy. For queens, motherhood wasn't sacred, it was duty. And failure was not an option. Their pain was public, their survival uncertain, and their privacy non-existent. Here's the truth: behind the crowns, portraits, and shimmering gowns, royals were far from divine. They were humans wrapped in gold, but plagued with lice, poisoned by their own makeup, rotting from within, and forced to live in palaces that smelled like open sores. History loves to paint them as untouchable icons of elegance. But elegance doesn't stop infections. Elegance doesn't clean chamber pots. Elegance doesn't keep a worm from writhing in your stomach. So the next time you marvel at a royal portrait, ask yourself, what's hidden under the crown? Beauty or decay? Majesty or misery? And if this little stroll through royal filth gave you a new way to see past the silk and sparkle, Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. Because the true weight of a crown isn't the gold, it's everything it hides.